How the hell did I get myself here? That's the name of the series. It's about me becoming an international smuggler, using this machine as a self-taught amateur helicopter pilot, as an exporter, working my way through the federal prison system, the lessons that I learned that I still carry today, and the fact that be very careful. The decisions that you make today will affect you down the track. Here's the story. So, I pull in and get to the next jail. I don't even know where this one is. It's very strange. It's a very small jail. It's in the middle of nowhere. And processing in again, stripped out. By this point, I'm pretty comfortable getting my junk out in front of everyone. I could really be a porn star if certain things were okay. Anyway, not to make light of the situation. So, dressed into some shit clothes again and off to a unit. I know the drill. This is a bit of a strange jail, this one, because I've seen them on TV. They've got glass so you can actually see into the next pod. So I go into the pod and it's a tiny pod. That's a problem, because I'd say there must be, for a tiny pod, I'm talking about 60 guys. I'm on a bottom cell. I'm sharing with a Mexican bloke. And look, we're on the ground floor and there is a window, but it's one of those little slight windows. So trust me, I used to just sit there and look out, and there was a ton of rabbits out there. At that point, I'd give anything to be a rabbit. And I just looked at the rabbit crawling under the fence and crawling away. I thought, how lucky that rabbit was. But anyway, I'm in another jail. And if I can say, out of all the jails and prisons that I went to, the food here was next level bad. First meal, I got there in the morning. I got there at night. They gave us a sack lunch, obviously, for dinner or whatever. We got in about 11 o'clock, woke up the next morning. I generally didn't go for breakfast. We got fed in the pods, so they just bring around these big carts with trays, and one tray sat over the other tray. It was like lukewarm porridge. It looked like somebody threw up on there. I'd eat the piece of fruit and have the milk. And then lunch came around, and they wouldn't actually make the sandwich. They would just give you the 4 slices of bread, the 2 bits of bologna, some other crap. It was all. When I picked the bologna up, it just had a slime or a gunk on it. If you've ever, you bought that dog food in the store that comes in that big sausage. Bologna I used to eat as a kid. This stuff it just had a slime on the outside of it. Talked to my Mexican buddy, because we mainly ate in our cells because it was so small. The area was so small to walk around. So we did a lot in our cells. And then it was about a 20-foot, almost like a walking, 20 foot this way, 20 foot that way. And that's how I'd sort of pass the time, is walking backwards and forwards about 20 feet. But anyway, getting back to this bit of slime, I said to my Max, I'm not eating this. And he goes, could I have it? I said, absolutely, mate. Knock yourself out. Because I had no money on my books at this point. So some of these guys have been in there and they had other food. It's called commissary. So your people will put some money on your books. You'll be able to buy some food. You'll order it once a week and it'll come in. But I didn't think anyone knew where I was. I told the lawyer to contact people, but who knows? I hadn't heard from anyone, and getting moved around, I didn't have enough time to apply to use the phone. It was that isolation thing. So I digress, getting back to that slimy piece of meat. My Mexican buddy told me how you got to eat it. He said, we got to put it in the sink. It's the same sink that we wash our hands in after we've gone to the bathroom. Same sink you spit in. He would clean it all out and then put the meat in to get the slime off, and then sit it near the window with toilet paper to dry it out to make it edible, so your bread wouldn't just turn to mush. Absolutely disgusting. There was one positive thing about this was I dropped about 8 kilos at that point, I reckon in about 2 weeks, just from the lack of eating. So I was in pretty good shape. But anyway, I don't remember a lot of good things about this, but again, you're in the middle of the desert, and I knew it was the desert the Mojave Desert somewhere, but there was nothing around. And I can honestly say, thinking back of those, the days just drag on. With you not knowing what's going on, you can ask a guard, but they have no idea. You're just in a holding pattern, and that's where it sits. So the guards, they had no answers. I couldn't contact anyone. I didn't know where I was going. So I believe it or not, I was there for, I would say, the next week, maybe 2 weeks. And again, it doesn't matter. Weekdays don't matter. Weekends don't matter. People are coming and going, but it all blends into one. But finally, I would say 10 days to 2 weeks later, again, you get that call up in 3 o'clock in the morning and your name's called out, and holy shit, now I'm excited. And it's like, we're getting dressed out again. So go into processing, tiny jail. So it wasn't upstairs. You just sort of walked through a bunch of doors and you were there at processing. Again, strip naked, bend over, lift everything up, go through it. I'm getting old hat at this. Going through it, and you're dressed out into your free world clothes or street clothes. And you wait there for a couple of hours, and a bus pulls up this time. So we're on a prison bus, and it's a Californian prison bus, the school bus again. We're loaded onto that, and I would say that would have been somewhere around 10 o'clock, 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. And that was interesting because for the next 6 or 7 hours, off we go. Now, we went around to, I would say, 5 or 6 prisons and jails. We went to Chin Chin. That's not a restaurant. That's actually a state prison in California. It's notorious. I remember pulling into that prison, and it looked like Beirut, Lebanon. The windows just look all bashed out, even though it was concrete and bars. People laying everywhere on these tables. It looked like the oldest, dirtiest prison. We pulled up. I think we had lunch there. We got out. We dropped some guys off. We picked some more guys up. Then we went off to another state prison. Each time we went to a state prison, it was very different than going to a federal. Then we pulled up to a federal prison and dropped a couple blokes off. I think I got talking to one. He said he was excited to get dropped off, and I didn't understand why. He was just about to start a 7-year bit. We dropped him off and a few other, picked a few blokes up. And just literally 7 hours on this bus driving to different facilities. One thing in California, it was at the time, the number one employer in the state of California was the prison system. True story. There you go. So for the next 7 hours, we bounced around until we started heading out to this one area, and there were no buildings out there. But guess what? That's in part 28.